Welcome to the Rustic Garden Homestead. It's late October. I'm in the process of winterizing my beds and redesigning my garden. Today I'm going to show you a before and after, and I'm going to be making a bean or cucumber trellis garden. I'm going to use that shelving, that's 10-foot shelving that goes in a closet. You can get that at Home Depot or Lowe's. And I've really redesigned a lot of my garden. This whole space in here has been changed, and this is where I had all the shelving. There's 4-foot pieces of shelving right here. You can get that shelving in any size. I'm going to work in this section. I've just cleaned up most of the containers here, and right in that corner I have 200-gallon grow bags. I sell those at my seed shop, and they work wonderfully well right in here because I can get on both sides. One of the mistakes I made is I stuck them in a corner. It's a little bit hard to reach in and get to the far part of the bags, and that space is not really being utilized the best that it can be utilized. I also want to put in the 10-foot shelvings right in front of my fence there to create a higher barrier, because I've had deer starting to jump in here. After 5 years, they finally figured out how to come in. So putting those shelves there, that will help keep some of the deer out. It'll just deter them. If they really want to get into your garden, they can figure it out. So I'm going to be removing those 100-gallon grow bags, and I'm going to be putting in 3 7-foot by 1-foot wooden raised beds. I'm going to put a space in between them of 1 foot so I'm able to walk down there, and that's just going to allow me to better utilize that space. I also have this video timestamp, so just use the timestamps to jump around to the parts you want. So I'm going to build the beds, change this over, and I'll talk about how I'm designing it, and the dimensions are really perfect for growing beans and cucumbers. I'm going to be making 3 beds out of pressure treated wood. Pressure treated wood is a little bit feared by people because people think that the chemicals can leach out and poison you. 30 years ago, arsenic was used in pressure treated wood. Now it's copper. Yes, some of the copper is going to leach out into the soil. It's not going to go far beyond the wood, and actually, in order for it to harm you, the amount of copper that has to be in that plant for it to harm you would kill that plant off way before the copper levels got to any kind of level that would harm you. So I'm not concerned about it. If you are concerned about it, use wood that's not pressure treated, but it's going to rot much more quickly, and it probably only lasts 3 to 5 years. Pressure treated wood can last a good 7 to 15 years. That's why I like to use it. Costs a little bit more, but I don't have to replace the beds. And again, leaching, yes, some of the copper can leach out of there. In my opinion, the amounts aren't enough to be concerned about. And if, again, in order for that copper to harm you, the levels would have to be so high in the plants that the plants would have died off well before enough copper was in them for them to even harm you. So what I like to do, go to Home Depot. This is an 8-foot board, and I ask them to cut 1 foot off of each board. That gives me the sides. I don't have to do any cutting. Pre-drill the holes so the screws don't split the wood, and then you put them together just as you see there. This is going to be the first bed that goes in. I'm going to be taking the dirt out of the fabric pots, putting it in here. I have plenty of videos on building the raised beds, filling the raised beds. I will link them in the video description. And again, use the timestamps to jump to the parts that most interest you. But this is a nice, easy way to quickly build a bed. Have Home Depot or Lowe's or a lumber yard cut the lumber for you, and just use 2.5 inch to 3 inch screws, screw it together. A couple of quick tips. It's a lot easier to put the other side on when you turn the bed just like this. You can see an overhang right here. Lumber is not exact, so when you're buying the pressure treated lumber, you may get a variance in the sizes. Just make this the bottom of the bed. It will sit on the bottom. You're also going to find lots of stamps on the wood. If you don't want that showing on the outside, make sure you put the stamped part of the wood on the inside of the bed, then you're not going to see it. But don't be alarmed if the boards really don't line up perfectly. That's just the way it is. You want to concentrate and make the top part nice and close together. That's going to look better. That's going to sit upward where your eyes get to see it. You want to generally level the beds as you're filling them, make them as level as possible. I'm putting down shredded hardwood as the base. The bottom of these raised beds are open, so the root systems, if they go that deep, will grow into the earth. That's perfect. There'll be plenty of moisture down there with the shredded hardwood. That's going to hold water. Having wood 12 inches down below 30 centimeters below the plants isn't really going to impact the nitrogen. It's when you mix wood through that top 6-8 inches, 15-20 centimeters, that the wood will challenge your plants for nitrogen. So this is the base that I lay down. The first box is going to go right in there. I'll be keeping those 10-gallon fabric pots there. I sell these at my seed shop if you want to get some fabric pots. Again, love the fabric pots over here. Like the setup. Didn't really like them over there. Wasn't the best use of space. Sadly, I'm going to have to take out some living plants. Maybe I'll transplant them over. But I want to get this done now, later October, November, and then have these all set up for next spring. The bed's been dropped in. I think that looks better already. That added that entire bed. I just moved over the 10-gallon fabric pots. Plenty of room for me to work the fabric pots, work the new raised bed. Again, these are 30-centimeter sides. Plenty of room for any plant to grow in there. Also perfect for carrots because you can make a nice loose soil, plant right into there, and you'll get a long straight carrot rather than the ones that get all twisted up if you have hard clay soil. So I'm going to fill this one using the soil in that grow bag and then drop in the other 2 raised beds. But I think it's going to look great. And again, this depth is what I recommend. 30 centimeters, perfect for really growing just about anything you want to grow in there. And then you can make the dimensions whatever you want. It could be a 1 foot wide, 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide, up to 4 feet wide. When it's 4 feet wide, you can reach in from each side. Your arms are about 2 feet and tend to the garden without stepping into it. If I spin around here, that's my dog barking. The beds that I made over here have the 30 centimeter, 12-inch sides, and they're 2 feet wide. I'm using them for a different purpose. There's my vision for the first bean box, cucumber box. It's a 10-foot trellis going into the box by a good foot, 30 centimeters. So it's 9 feet tall, which is plenty tall enough for any kind of bean or cucumber plant. I'm putting one right in here, out away from the fence in there. There's going to be much more shade in there because of the nectarine tree. I will cut back some of these branches, but the taller shelving is going to be really on the outer part of these raised beds that I'm making. And I'll be able to do beans or cucumbers. I'll have more space, carrots, whatever you want to put in there. Pepper plants would do really well. Just about anything would do really well in there. To secure your shelving for the trellis, you could put T-posts in there, so secure them to that. I just got a piece of wood and just screwed in the wood like that. That will press the shelf against the main side, give it some support. But once I put the dirt in, the dirt's going to press against here. That shelf is going to stay in place. Because it's thin and cucumbers can get really heavy, I would make sure you secure it in some manner. But you could always just drop a T-post right down there, tie it to that, hammer it into the ground. It'll be nice and solid. This moves a little bit now, but it won't once it's filled. As I mentioned, I have a lot of videos on filling raised beds, assessing and buying bagged soil products, making your own. Please check out the video description for more on that. Halfway through, and this soil's pretty good. It's just dry, so it needs a lot of water. I just wasn't taking care of that bed because I knew I was going to be moving it. But this is a nice soil. Perfect for the raised bed, perfect to transfer over, but I want to refresh it a little bit. At this point, if you had your own compost or you have access to really good quality compost, I would put down about 6 inches of compost in here, real quick. That's 15 centimeters, and mix it through. Compost is the best stuff. It holds water, feeds the microbes, feeds your plants. If you don't have that, any organic granular fertilizer, whatever's the cheapest, whatever's on sale, I just take a nice big handful, something like this, and just sprinkle it nice and heavily, you know, maybe another half right in there, and just throw some down there. I'll mix that all in, and then I'll put in the rest, and I know that I have fertilizer sitting there. Being the end of October, this will slowly break down over the next several months, be ready for the plants come spring. The second raised bed is in, and I moved it to the left a bit more so that it's out in the sun. Again, I'll be pruning some of that tree, but if it was all the way pushed into the corner, there's really just too much shade there. Plus the corner gives me a place to store poles and stakes and like all that kind of stuff fit nicely into the corner of a fence. So the second one is in, and I'm just moving the root pouches around, you know, taking out enough soil that I can move them, and then I'll be filling this one right there with the soil in there, clear that out, put in the third one. I wanted to show you just another example of how I'm securing the shelving. And it's just a piece of wood, 4 screws. That's not going to go anywhere, and I'll be able to grow beans up here. And again, being out beyond the tree, the beans or the cucumbers will get maximum sun right there. All 3 beds are completed. I really like how it looks. Please subscribe. I'll show you how I plant up this space come spring in my entire garden. I also have videos on all kinds of trellising, all kinds of projects you can do in October, November, December. I really like, as I was saying, the way that it looks. It gives me a lot more space. I'll be growing beans up this 10-foot trellis, bush cucumbers right back in there. Those are alfalfa pellets down. I use that as a way to put my beds to sleep. If you want to check out my channel, I just did a recent video on that. But 3 raised beds, 12-inch, 30 centimeter sides, a foot wide, 30 centimeters wide. Again, you can make this 1 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet, 30, 60, 90 centimeters, whatever fits into your space. This works for me. 7 feet, a foot in between, 30 centimeters in between. I can walk, I can get to everything. I've got that extra space for storage. I'll be using this bed along here for probably lettuces and greens so that they get some protection from the sun when this tree canopies. So I'll be able to grow leafy greens a little bit longer. Another place for the beans right up here. Let me step back for a second, show you some other design principles. The southern sun is behind my back. So south is going to move this way, it's going to go to the west. So I get plenty of sunlight going into there. So each trellis is going to get sun on both sides. That was part of my plan. I could have put the beds the other way, but then anything that I grew tall on this side would shade out everything. So I have the southern sun dropping between the beds. And then when you come out here, the western sun's going to be behind my back. And the trellises are set up. I don't know if it's easy to pick them up, but one is right there, one is right there, and then 2 are over there. The western sun's still going to hit both of those. They're not going to shade each other out. The lower trellis for the bush cucumbers are in the corner. When this nectarine tree canopies, it's going to provide some shade. Cucumbers don't like being beat up by the heat come mid-July, so maybe they'll grow a little bit longer and be a little bit more healthy before I have to replace them. Really like this project. This garden's been here for 5 years. As this was its 5th year of growing, I decided to really look at what I wanted to change and make those changes now. And I'll probably keep, this for another 5 years and assess every 5 years how I want to make changes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going through my entire garden now, changing things over. Again, simple 12-inch, 30 centimeter high raised beds really changes the space, gives me more growing room. Oh, and just one more thing too. I didn't have the heart to get rid of all the carrots, so I did transplant them in there. Hopefully they survive. We'll see how that goes. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. Please check out my new blog at therustedgardenblog.com. And again, please subscribe. I'll show you how I take care of these beds, grow in the summer. But most importantly, I'll show you how I start seeds indoors in January, get them outdoors, how I tend to the plants, manage pests and disease. I have over 1,600 videos that will help you grow a better garden. Thanks for watching.